Dimitri Dautel, Global Business Director. How to create tomorrow's experience in a connected life. The floor is yours. There you go.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so this is very exciting for me. I think everybody say this when they go on stage and they have like so many eyeballs turning toward themselves. This is even like more exciting for me because it's the first time I'm presenting this approach, and it could be like one of the most impactful that we had at Mobext, and it's the first time I'm sharing it, so yeah, exciting for me. I'm going to assume that you all got the fact that mobile is extremely changing the way consumers are behaving, and I think all the presentations we saw before were kind of an introduction to this one, so I'd like to thank everybody that was just talking before for introducing my part. But you saw that like mobile is now the main focus point of the digital consumer. This is where they spend the most time connected. It's spending more time in the US, like they spend more time on their mobile phone than in front of TV, just to give you kind of a weight of mobile in general. So it has the power to change, and we're going to see through the eyes of Mobext, who is the mobile-only and mobile-first company of Avast, how it could maybe reach out to something a little bit ambitious that are labeled human advertising. So the one reason I think that it could be interesting is that I think that a new path is required for digital advertising. One of the first points and the first reasons for that is the fact that we're in front of a very fragmented space. We talked about many devices. People are using different types of content on this different device, so it's not just a question of touch point, it's also a question of content. And the way we still address it in the way we communicate is by filling different buckets of contacts, saying, okay, I'm going to expose some people on desktop, I'm going to expose some people on tablet, I'm going to expose some people on mobile. Well, guess what? It's the same person most of the time. So making it work means that you need to be able to embrace the fragmentation and make sense out of it. And we're not doing this so much. So this is one of the first requirements. Another thing that has been going on a lot today was talking about data. And to be quite fair, the way we see data is sometimes quite inaccurate to be really efficient in terms of targeting. Why I say that is that we are born, we are offline. We're people. I'm not connected right now. What it means by that is what I do on my computer is not what I do in my everyday life. And knowing what I do in my everyday life is extremely interesting to know what kind of consumer I am, where do I go, what place do I visit. And knowing these things could be extremely interesting. What stores, where do I travel? These are things that will really help targeting more efficiently on the digital sphere. The last item, it's quite interesting, is the way we look at attribution models. Everybody's talking about return on investment, and now they can measure it, blah, blah, so on. Friday, they communicated numbers from Black Friday sales in the US. Mobile accounted for, apparently, 40% of total digital sales. Well, it's good. I don't believe this number. And the reason I don't is because how many people saw some brand content, some sales on their phone, and actually went to the store, just didn't want it to buy through their mobile phone. And the stores are like, well, these are free contacts. There are people that just came here by accident. No, it's not true. They used their mobile, but they went there. So it's not 40%, it's probably like 50 or 55 or even more. But the way we attribute these people is not working. Same goes with I expose somebody on mobile, but because I don't know, he wants to buy a plane ticket that will be a little bit expensive, maybe he's not there yet to actually buy the plane ticket on his mobile phone. And he will convert on the desktop. Having the ability to say, this desktop conversion comes from this campaign is key, because this is what the real consumer is about. So what I mean by human advertising is stop really focusing on these buckets, stop thinking device per device, and try to understand what's the consumer really about in terms of content and in terms of really advertising opportunities. So this is why I called it human advertising. So the way we tackle that is quite simple. It's going to get a little bit more tricky after that, don't worry. But it's quite simple, really. It starts by acknowledging the two pieces that are really important in a campaign. So every time we receive a brief, our teams are putting together an approach that is like, what should be the user experience for this objective of the client? What should the consumer get excited about? Like, what's going to make it like work? And then once we nail that down, we're going to be like, okay, what is the proper way of addressing the good people? What is the data out there that we can work, make use of, and make this unique user experience, bring it in front of the good people? So this defines the way we design our stack behind us. We have a part is called Mobex experience that I'm going to describe that is about like being able to produce device-specific, compelling, simple ad units, but that works on any case. And on the data part, we have two modules, Mobex Extend that will be data-infused audience buying, and Mobex X-Act that will be like defining, providing real attribution models. So let's look into this a little bit. Just before that, I want to say it's not just a technical platform I'm talking about. This is the process of work. This is real people. Somehow, funny enough, when we say human advertising, it makes it like a human experience from us because every campaign is run by somebody that is like a UX designer and somebody that's like a data specialist. So really have like the two sides of the brain, like emotional and rational. How can we make this work together to work? So all this togetherness like that we've been talking about is like really happening within like our process of work at Mobex. So it starts with like being able to provide like real formats. The reason I'm saying this and why it's so important to me is that a lot of people are going to me, it's like, I'm sorry, but like mobile ads, bleh. And I do understand, honestly. Like seeing most of the creative work that has been done on mobile is not that great. And the reason for that is that they take like their TV spot and they force it on a phone. And or they take like a print advertising and they're going to force it inside a phone. Nah, neither. I mean, what makes it interesting is that like the mobile phone is extremely like interactive. You can take pictures, you can interact with friends, you can like share on social media platforms your content. And then comes the advertising that's like, you cannot do anything, it's not interactive, it's very boring. Well, the thing is, we can do better than that. We can do like, as you saw before, like formats when you can talk to the format reply to you and triggers an interaction. You can take a picture directly from an ad unit and see like your picture edited and share it. So it gets very like engaging for the consumer. We have like mini games, we develop these kind of things. Of course it takes some special thinking, right? So there's that, we do this. So it's really like compelling for the audiences and the people. It's very deeply interactive. And what's also interesting is that when you can do this on the phone, like doing a desktop advertising gets very easy because you don't have this complexity level to handle this. It's just like click, point, see what happens, desktop ad units. And since it's the same technology behind, we're actually doing mobile first and then convert it to desktop advertising on the same platform. So behind this idea of being able to do your creative for all devices in one place is not just like making proper creative, but also running the process more consistently. When you tag your creatives, when you want to have a report on the engagement, it's just like one touch point. So much easier to process. So much more efficient for your client to see like consolidated metrics of engagement on this one ad unit, because it should not be important to know that it's like this device or this device. It's the consumer that matters on the creative part. So this is like how it runs. I'm going to show you quickly in a more detailed view of the platform we're using. So we have a couple of things on this slide, and I'm sorry about that. But of course, we can run video. Why video is important? We saw, for example, with the initiative of Studio Plus presented by Dominique, that video is massive on mobile. And not only on millennial. Think that YouTube today gets more video views on mobile than on desktop. Let it sink a little bit, okay? Now think what kind of content advertisers are putting in the YouTube pre-roll. It's going to be a TV spot that is usually 30 seconds, a bit long for a mobile session, that will be like, most of it will be black pixels, right? Like this huge square on the top, this huge square on the bottom. You paid quite a lot of money to display dark pixels. Most of advertising in video, it's not the case of YouTube, but most of the video inventory is muted, no sound. It's compressed to a tiny screen. You're not using the real estate of the mobile phone. So you cannot see anything, you cannot hear anything, it's not interactive, it's too long. It doesn't work, it's too much. So we can, on the fly, reprocess every video that is like sent to us and like make it vertical when needed for the right device. We can like subtitle it to bypass the muted sounds and like add like call to action within the video. So it really like makes it fitted for the mobile consumer. Then again, it's very easy for us to do the same for desktop and the kind of inventory we're going to have there. So we can do this for video, and then I'm not going to get in details, but like we do this on 360 video, we can do this in VR. It's really like easy for us to do this. We have also a very wide range of like libraries that we can use. Add a map to a store that will be next to it, done. Add like a product gallery, done. So very easy for that. It's also open data. So what do I mean by that is that if your client, if your advertiser wants to use like a dynamic price, say like these are the stocks that are left, you can see it in real time. Do you want to see like what's the Instagram feed of the client within your ad unit? No problem. We can pull this with like an open data platform. It also means that you can import every like engagement rate inside your system if you need. It's your data, so you can use it. And of course, it's cross-device. So that's what we mean by mobile first, is really being able to think where the consumer is, and not like where we spend, but what the consumer does is where like we need to follow, and we're there. An example of this in motion here is a campaign that is run both in San Francisco and New York for a shoe brand, like a sneaker brand. And you'll see based on like the time of the day, the location, the weather, and the sex of the targeting of the campaign, the ad unit will dynamically change. So, for example, if you're in San Francisco, the hashtag will be RunSF. If you're in New York, it's going to be hashtag Run New York City. If you're male, you're going to have like the male version of the shoe be presented, and so on and so forth. Again, very interesting because it's one central touch point for all these creatives. All the creative is like managed and all the reporting is done there. So it makes it very efficient and simple for us to use and make it more appealing for the consumer. This is an example of a very simple campaign that we're running right now for PayPal in the UK using this platform. What's also interesting that you'll see is we have two different call to action, right? Because on mobile phone, you want people to download the PayPal app, whereas like they will not do it on a computer, but you can direct them somewhere else and have like a consolidated approach of the metric or specified by vertical in the data, where we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So that's how we tackle device fragmentation when it comes to user experience. Now let's talk a little bit about like, okay, let's go. How about data now? So there again, we think mobile first. And we like to say we have a smart audience, and we can use this in a smart way. So instead of going through all this, I'm going to show you in detail each of the steps. Let's take a breath and like spend a bit of time on that one because it's still important. Mobex Extend is our network of inventory. Huge brands there, local also, niche. Of course, I put the big brands there. I would like to point at you a couple of ones that will be definingly differentiating for us. Dominique told about Canal+. You see the Universal logo. You see Dailymotion. You see also Gameloft. These brands are are our cousin or brothers or sisters from Avast. It gives us an opportunity to tap into the specific inventory, have very competing offers with them. And we build this with them. We're working right now as Gameloft to build bridges of data and audience and like approaches to really make a cutting edge on, I mean, Gameloft being obviously like a mobile-only player, it gets very interesting for us. One other I would like to highlight is Shazam, because it's interesting in a way that this mobile, very popular platform brings together offline worlds, mobile worlds. And how can you like trigger from an offline content an interactive consumer experience? Say you watch a TV spot, you can engage them into like getting somewhere. So we have a world exclusive Shazam partnership with them, and we have like business models that I will not get into, but like basically you have competing prices that no other agency in the world has with them. So could be interesting. So behind that, there's a million of publishers. Could not fit all of them in the slide, sorry about that. But also billions of daily impressions. And I'm talking cross-device here too. I mean, yes, it's mobile first, but we work with also like desktop, tablet inventory. So we can do audio, video, interactive, rich campaigns, use native formats, geolocalized type of campaigns. This is the way we run the campaigns here. Another dimension of Extend is the ability to use proper targeting. And this is getting where very like, it gets exciting, I think, to me. I'm a nerd, sorry. But it gets exciting because, well, like on desktop, we're doing digital targeting. And I kind of take pride in the fact that I think that the mobile data is even richer and more accurate than desktop data. The reason I say this, and the way I explain it to my clients, is, well, somebody goes to a golf website. You would think that he's kind of a golfer, and you say, okay, let's retarget them about like a golf product, right? But he might just go there because he wanted to take a picture, or like there was like a picture of a celebrity there and he wanted to see like whatever happened. Now, if you use a companion app for golf, you are indeed a golfer. Because like bothering to download an app about golf on your phone and using it on a daily basis is much more defining of your behavior than just casually browsing a website. So I tend to think that like it's more accurate and pinpoint accuracy, on that. So behind is like the ability to target socio-demographically, the behavior on sites and apps, the context of the content the person is browsing, and I will see examples of that later on. The purchase story is made. Something we're doing with Amazon is like people that bought this product or that put this in their basket, we can retarget them, engage them. And then there's like, of course, viewability and brand safety. And when we come to human advertising, is making sure that it's not bots. So it's very important that we have this behind working. Where it gets very, very different and exciting for me is like we can also tap into offline behavior. And it's probably not very clear, but on the right, you see the platform we're using to do so. So this is a map of San Francisco, and imagine it's a campaign to target people that like yoga. I know it's kind of an odd niche, but you just type in yoga, and you have like all the yoga practice that shows up on the map. You define the radius and say, I want 5, 10, 20 meters radius around this spot, and you have like all the mobile potential that is like ready to be triggered when they're here, but also people that have visited the place during the 3 past months. And that's because we have GPS information of 30% of mobile impressions that we're seeing. So it means that I'm able to understand and what people do, that I'm here, that maybe 2 days ago I was in Paris, and since I was in the offices yesterday, I know that I'm not like here for leisure. I'm a business traveler because like the time it took me to get from Paris to Warsaw, between the two impressions that happened in Paris and Warsaw, make it that I needed to take a plane for that. And then like I end up being in a business office, so I'm a business traveler. So it's about like really what I'm doing, not about the website I've been reading or the news title I've been reading. It's like really what I do with my life that matters. So it gets extremely interesting for that. Another thing that we're doing with this information, which is also very interesting in terms of attribution, is the ability to measure uplift of a campaign inside a store. Let me explain. You want to drive people to store. And mobile is very good at this. So you expose them, and then they go to a store. What happens there used to be like a mystery. You would like report on click and say like we had this much people exposed and that so many people clicked. But now I can say we generated an uplift of that amount of percent inside your store and show the client that mobile matters and works. So data is interesting for us. And the last piece of Mobex Extend that makes it like really interesting, I think, is what we call our device graph. So we're going to take a little bit of time because this is maybe the most complex thing to understand. I'm going to try to make it easy. So as I mentioned before, one person, many devices, right? And we want to focus on the person, not on the device, because this is how you learn about somebody and this is how you make proper targeting. By looking at patterns of consumptions, we can see that one device is bridged to another. It's the same person. So the way we do this is like, maybe I'm going to get connected with my computer and my phone on the same Wi-Fi network. And then like people will say, yeah, duh, but like here everybody's connected on the same Wi-Fi network. It's not one person, right? But if you see this happening time after time after time after time, it's like, it looks like it. It looks like these two devices are connected on the same IPs in different places, in different times, and they are very close, right? Now, if you analyze the type of content that has been used, if it's consistent again, you're like, yeah, that looks like somebody that's like the same person. Till we end up at a level of 92% of certainty that is the same person behind. So now that you have this device graph, imagine it's just like a database or an Excel spreadsheet when you have Dimitri Dautel, this phone, this desktop, this computer, and this tablet. And you're able to bridge it every time you see me, engage me, or see an action I'm doing on each of these devices. So now we're tapping into something that is user-focused. You're talking about like doing true consumer digital behavior with a layer of offline data, which is very exciting. So the way, what it means for us is like, we're able to unificate the user data across all devices. That's simple. I hope you understand that, and if not, like, don't hesitate to ask me about it. The way we use this is like, for example, to do sequential targeting. Say, oh, I'm going to expose people on mobile, but because they might not convert on mobile, I'm going to retarget them on desktop. Easy. I know the same person. I can analyze that. Another, like, other example of that is, let's take the case of branding advertisers. Okay, I'm running a video campaign. I'm using digital to extend my reach. I want to make sure I can like extend a lot of people and not like super expose one person. And if you put like a frequency cap of 5 on tablets, 5 on desktop, 5 on smartphones, you end up with a potential 15 exposure for one person. So you don't control it. While being able to resolve that to the user level, say, yeah, I'm going to put 5 across all devices because I want to control per consumer. The device doesn't matter. I want to make sure that I expose one person. The last part and the last way we're using this is like, well, say I've been exposed to an advertising on my mobile phone. And it was cool, it was well done because it was made by our team. But still, I didn't like transform directly from my phone. Later on that day, I'll go on the desktop and I'll convert there. Well, looking at this data through the device graph gives us, well, okay, we saw the multi-touch point attribution. We saw that the people were exposed on mobile phone, converted on desktop. So we're getting consistent in the attribution model. The last bit about data I wanted to talk about before we get into examples is our reporting platform, what we do with it. Because all of this is interesting, but if you don't show it to the client, to our advertisers, it doesn't make any sense, it has no value. And they are right about it, they only trust what they see, and we want to show it. So of course, all of our campaign data is open, it's not crypted, we are not like putting like some proprietary like ID and that you need to go back to us to actually reinvest, whatever, is the advertiser data, and that's part of like the value he gets from working with us, and we want to make sure he can play with it, even like work with other companies with it, we're more than happy. So it's reliable because we are open to third-party certification, we are controlled by Nielsen, DoubleClick, and you can control what we're doing really. You can get like your customization of reports, everything. I'm not going to get into details of that. So one thing we do is that we say, okay, we want to expose wives that have like I don't know, this kind of like income and are between that age and that age. So it's a good promise, and you put it in the plan. Then like what really happened is something that you don't see often in the report. How many of these people that you told me were these wives with 25 to 35 years old living with that income did you really expose? Well, we can do that, and we're using Nielsen, for example, as a panel to control how many of the right target we had in the plan. This is something that is very interesting to make sure that we are consistent in terms of targeting. Another thing that is very mobile specific, but very important too, is what we call the application lifetime value. So what does that mean? A lot of brands have apps, and a lot of them want to promote their app and say, hey, people, download my app. The problem is that they're looking at the cost per download because they're very focused on direct KPIs that are simple to understand. And I understand that, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, the thing is, people, after a week, when they download an app, there's 80% of them that don't use it any longer. So it means that the KPI you're tracking is wrong to a level of 80% 1 week later. This is bad. Now, the way we see it is that if we look at the people that keep on using the app in time, these are the ones that really matter for you. It's the ones that say, hey, I want to keep on engaging. I want you to be like in my pocket every time. They're very valuable. And they want to engage with the brand on a regular basis. These people have a lifetime value because they spend a lot of time. And you want to maximize that. And because we're able to record any event inside the app and track it and link it to how we promoted this application, we can optimize based on this very valuable value. So this is what we do with this. Of course, I mentioned this, but it's the ability to have like a real cross-device attribution model for brands. So I discussed about this already. And also another thing I discussed about was like the ability to analyze how much people exposed went to a store and how we contributed to a store uplift. So going back to the 40% of Black Friday sales, they were not using us to actually record it because we could have probably like get a better approach of this number. So in the end, by combining the three things, we take pride in the fact that we can do real human advertising because we made like the device just a layer of abstraction, and the meaning belongs to the user experience, to the proper targeting of a consumer. And we kind of believe we nailed it down, and we're very excited about it, and this is what we call human advertising, basically. So giving you a couple of, there's a lot of applications of that. It's like really like a blueprint for everything we're doing. But some of the applications of human advertising would be, for example, video. We talked about the terrible features of like the video units we're seeing on mobile phones. This is something we're doing for Dior, based on a 30-second TV spot, and this is how we converted it. There was no call to action, it was not vertical, and it was a 30 second. So we made it 10 second vertical with a call to action to go on the site. Much more efficient for the consumer, much more appealing, and also much more interesting for the brand. Okay, cool format. Okay, so that's like the really like UX emotional part of our business. Now let's talk about the more rational part. The thing that is interesting behind that is we're able to provide to the brand reportings that show how much the digital devices incremented their coverage of our brand, of our target, sorry. So I can say, okay, this was your TV reach, good. This was like your digital reach, but the two were never really matched together. And we can say now, okay, you got this amount of incremental reach, and you got this amount of people that were exposed to both TV and digital. And of course, I can go in more details of the devices and say, that amount of people saw it on tablet and desktop and mobile and like the cross between the three of them. We can play a lot with this kind of thing. But yeah, so there's a good application and like I think relevant for video advertisers. Another example more focused on like the real offline behavior usage of data for targeting is something we're doing for Emirates. So we analyze the behavior of people on their phones on every moment, every basis, okay? So we're seeing people that go to a 5-star hotel or a palace hotel in Cannes, in Paris, and they have their phone set to Arabic. And we're like, wait a second, you must be an affluent customer, you're traveling, and like your phone is set to Arabic. There's a lot of chances that you'll be relevant for Emirates for that. So we do this at a much more extended level. The example behind me was when like they wanted to promote their their iWatch app. Say like we have an iWatch app to follow your flights and booking and everything. So we targeted every places that like were selling the iWatch because like they're most likely to be the ones going there. So what I find really exciting about this is that like when we do media planning, we've always been looking at the proxies that will let us touch the consumer, right? Like, okay, instead of like going for the luxury customer, I'm going to go for maybe Vogue that is talking to the luxury customer. Now you can say, okay, people that visit Gucci, people that visit Prada, I'm going to target them, but I don't want the one that go to Dior. So it's really like thinking the touch points a different way in your planning approaches. So quite interesting for that. And of course, behind this, because it's Emirates, we had to filter the targeting and say, okay, we want to be able to scan every pages that we could maybe expose the consumer on and make sure there's no evocation whatsoever of alcohol or of some potential lewd content, because the main shareholders of the company will really see that very bad. Another example of this is that you might have heard that there was a plane crash on Monday. Sad news. And of course, it's something that you want to make sure that Emirates is not going to be associated with when they actually see an advertising. So we have these kinds of content every time going on any campaign, making sure this is a brand-safe environment to have a very good environment for the brand to communicate. So this is an example of how we can build a specific cluster for the client, and then when we build it, it keeps on going. Like we analyze, look at it, and every time the clients want to say, hey, let's use this cluster again, so yeah, it's there, we can use it. So it's quite interesting. Last case. This one is actually like funny. So Leroy Merlin is a French brand that is like home appliance. So you can buy anything from like kitchens to garden items to whatever. And they called us and they said, hey Mobex, we would like to promote our new like garden catalog to people that came to our stores or to the competitor, because they are the ones we want to address. And the thing is, they wanted to target people on tablet and desktop only. And at first I was like, you know, people don't go inside the store with their computer or their tablet to actually see. So am I going to be able to say geolocalize and then reach them with their tablet and computer? But then I realized, yeah, it is actually possible. We can do this. And the way we did this, I'm going to show you exactly how it worked. First, we looked at the points of interest that were designed by the client, their stores, the competition. Okay, we defined an area around it. And we look at all the impressions that we saw from mobile phones there. And with it came a key, we call this a device ID, but it's a key to identify a person. I said, okay, I know that this is this mobile phone, right? And then by injecting this inside what I call the device graph, I'm able to say, okay, this mobile phone, I know it. And it's actually like the same owner as this tablet, this computer. So I can target them this way. And so we did this, and we were able to use this information to run the campaign on desktop and tablet. So again, it's like showing you how like we can use mobile-first data to run desktop, for example, campaign. So it's just not about mobile. It's about like using what's good about it to make sense of it. Interestingly enough, we had a very good CTR on this campaign. Of course, we had like uplift measurement behind, not at liberty to share, sorry. But yeah, they were good. So they're now doing this a lot with us now. So yeah, I think that's it for me. Thanks so much.